Gemini 3 is a really good model. Nano Banana Pro is fantastic. We've basically hit artificial general intelligence, AGI, when it comes to visual reasoning. Good morning, everybody. I was out last night at the Radiohead concert with Google, so thank you to Google for the invite. One of my favorite bands, probably my favorite band actually. As soon as they extended that invitation, that was a very easy yes. Thank you so much, Google. We're going to be talking about Google again after last week with the launch of Gemini 3. We're going to be talking about the Genesis project in a moment. Gemini 3 from Google, Nano Banana Pro, anti-gravity, updates to Notebook. They've been knocking it out of the park. And today we have more news, which is exciting because it means more competition. And if you've watched any of my stuff, you know I like competition in the market because it drives everyone forward and makes everything better. We're going to be talking specifically about the fact that Google seem to be supplying their TPUs, their Tensor Processing Units, to other companies. Now, this is a change from what we've had for the last couple of years, where our models have been built on GPUs, graphical processing units, specifically made by Nvidia. Nvidia has become the largest company on earth. They hit 5 trillion market capitalization. I think they're a little bit below that at the moment, but they hit 5 trillion. The first company to ever do, based on the fact that they build the chipsets, they build the GPUs that are used to train large language models. Now, there's going to be quite a few acronyms being thrown around. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the difference between TPUs and GPUs is, because this is going to become more and more important over next year. Meta, Facebook basically, is in talks to use Google's chips in challenge to Nvidia. Everybody has been using Nvidia's GPUs for the last couple of years to train their models, to train their artificial intelligences. They were basically the only game in town, and that's why they're worth a huge amount of money. That is increasingly not the case. Gemini 3 and all previous Gemini models have been trained on Google's proprietary technology called a TPU, a Tensor Processing Unit. They're not made by Nvidia. So Google managed to release a state-of-the-art model last week built on their own hardware, built on their own cloud servers, built on their own Tensor Processing Units, not reliant on other technology. That was quite a coup. And it looks like Google are now looking to sell their chips, their Tensor Processing Units, to other AI companies. So we heard a few days ago that Anthropic, the creators of Claude, who just released Claude Opus 4.5 yesterday, are expanding their use of Google's cloud TPUs. Anthropic's choice to significantly expand its usage of TPUs reflects strong price performance and efficiency. We'll talk about this in a moment. Its teams have seen with TPUs for several years, said Thomas Kurian, CEO at Google Cloud. We're continuing to innovate and drive further efficiencies and increase capacity for our TPUs, building on our already mature AI accelerator portfolio, including our 7th generation TPU, Ironwood. They've got really cool names as well, all of the TPUs. So we heard that Anthropic are pushing and they want more TPUs, and now Meta, creators of Facebook and WhatsApp, are using TPUs for their AIs. Nobody really talks about them anymore. The deal could be worth billions of dollars. Talks are continuing and may not result in one. It's up in the air whether Meta would use the chips, known as Tensor Processing Units or TPU, train its models, or to do inference. So you can use it for both. One of the people said, inference, the process of a trained model uses the generated response to a query, requires less computational power than training. Okay, so I think it is useful to talk about what a TPU is. Nano Banana Pro to put together an infographic, and it has failed. Let me see if I can nudge it, because I wanted a nice infographic, but it is not playing nicely. NotebookLM is having problems where it cannot generate slides, or I forget what the other new feature is, but it's not able to. So I think Google are having capacity issues right now. So basically, I don't have a graphic, but I'll do my best. Basically, GPUs are the general technology. It stands for Graphical Processing Unit. They're created by Nvidia. They're created by multiple companies, but Nvidia are the main game in town. They can process different types of information, including graphics, hence GPU. They are general purpose workhorses and can be put towards tasks. And what's really impressive about them is they can do things in parallel very quickly, which is different to a CPU, which we're not going to talk about, which does things sequentially. A GPU, because it can do everything in parallel, is really good for training artificial intelligence models, because inside of that training process is basically lots of very small calculations, but a lot of them happening at the same time. We have models now that have trillions of parameters, And imagine each of those parameters being slightly tweaked. Imagine it as a bunch of little knobs and dials, but you have multiple trillions of little knobs and dials. The power of a GPU comes from the fact that it's able to do these smaller calculations on many little variables at the same time. Nvidia has done well providing GPUs for training artificial intelligence models. TPUs are similar. They're a chipset. I wish I had my image. Give me an image. TPUs are not general purpose. They are a lot more specific, and they're primarily used in machine learning and in training artificial intelligence models. Give me a rubbish image. Oh, it's not too bad. TPUs, because they strip away a lot of the functionality, because they cannot be used for a wide range of tasks, are highly specialized. So they're highly specialized at doing these mathematical calculations, which are required to train a large language model. They are perfect for the type of AI we have now. Because they're highly specialized, they use a lot less energy. GPUs are power hungry, and a lot of that is wasted because it is not needed just to do these tiny little calculations at massive scale. So TPUs are much, much more power efficient. So you can power them with less electricity and get the same results as if you were using a large amount of GPUs. So this is a massive threat to Nvidia. Google are offering their TPUs and cloud infrastructure to other AI companies kicks the legs out from underneath Nvidia, and the fact that Nvidia is worth $5 trillion because Nvidia have, for the last couple of years, there are other chip creators, but it's basically one company. So Nvidia put out a tweet that they're under pressure now. They put out a tweet saying, "We're delighted by Google's success. They've made great advances in AI and we continue to supply Google." They're making a point that they do actually sell GPUs to Google as well. Nvidia is a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done. Nvidia offers greater performance, versatility, and fungibility than ASICs, that's used inside TPUs, which are designed for specific AI frameworks or functions. So what they're saying here is correct. What's interesting here is the fact that they feel it necessary to say this. So this came out yesterday. Yesterday. The fact that Nvidia speaks volumes. They're scared. There is a threat from Google. Nvidia had not been threatened for the last couple of years. For them to come forward with a statement like this saying, these guys are doing really well, they're not quite as good. Ours are more versatile. We have greater performance. We're still ahead of them. The very fact that they are defending themselves tells us a huge amount. What they miss here, they say here, ASICs or TPUs are designed for very specific AI frameworks or functions. That is true. And the reason that is because they're much more efficient at that particular task. So Nvidia have missed out that important fact that TPUs are better at specific machine learning tasks. The truth is a bit more boring. Most training data centers are going to use TPUs and GPUs. They're going to use a bit of each, and it's going to be a mixture of them. They're good at different things. However, this is going to be seen as a battle of the titans. There won't be much grey area here, and I've already seen it in most of the popular media, people saying, "Oh, TPUs versus GPUs, who's going to win?" That's not what's happening here, but that's the narrative that you're going to see pushed. That said, this is a threat to Nvidia, a threat to their monopoly. I'm excited to see some kind of competition. Here again, this is from yesterday, Nvidia saying its GPUs are a generation ahead, and they're much, much better, and they can be used for lots of different things. Again, this is them in defensive mode because shares fell 3% after a report that Meta could strike a deal with Google. Nvidia said, don't worry, they need to keep the markets calm. Keep an eye on this. We're looking for signs of something that could pop the bubble. This could be it. A huge amount of money has been shoved into Nvidia. All of the money that goes into, or most of the money that goes into the AI companies like OpenAI flows straight through to Nvidia. And this is why Nvidia are making huge amounts of cash. This is a threat to that narrative. It's a threat to that market dynamic. So we could see some kind of market instability off the back of this. I don't know if this is the needle that's going to pop the bubble, if you believe there's a bubble, but this is definitely going to challenge some of the narratives in the industry right now. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Good morning, everybody. Wait till I start making chips. There's not that many chip manufacturers. It's a very capital intensive industry. Even chip makers like Intel, who make primarily CPUs, have been struggling recently. Nvidia has been dominating, which is an unhealthy market dynamic to have one company who basically has a monopoly, not because they've crushed their competitors, but just because they've done so well. over the last couple of years and become the only game in town. So Nvidia has a technology called, and another called NVLink, and together CUDA and NVLink basically allow you to buy many GPUs and connect them to acts as one giant GPU. And that's why we see these data centers with racks and racks of these chips, and they're all connected via CUDA and NVLink so that they act as one and can be used for massive parallel processing of these trillions of parameters within models. This is a moat that Nvidia does have via CUDA. This is a technology that is currently holding the Chinese chipsets back. We're waiting for DeepSeek, the new version of DeepSeek. The last one was the beginning of this year, so it's been a long time. Late last year. We were expecting the next DeepSeek, I think in May this year. It has been speculation because the Huawei chips that they're using were not able to train as successfully as Nvidia chips. Intelligent speculation is that the Huawei chips don't link up and talk to each other in the same way that the GPUs from Nvidia do. They don't have the NVLink. The Chinese manufacturers, Huawei, have been trying to work out how to do that so that you can build gigantic data centers. As long as Nvidia has the patent and they have the software, and that gives them a certain amount of moat as well. So Nvidia are not out of the ball game. They're still incredibly powerful and they're still the hardware of choice. But the TPUs and Google are now starting to provide an alternative. But it isn't just one or the other, it's going to be both. How are they compared to Blackwell? The jump from H100 to B100 is massive. Do you mean the TPU specifically? I'm not sure with those models in particular. I'm really curious about what motivates you to do all of this. It's my business. I do the live streams because I'm going to be reading this news anyway. So I decided, if I'm going to read this news, why don't I just do it live? So you'll see my live reaction to the content as I see what's going on in artificial intelligence. I do a live stream. We edit it and it goes onto YouTube. The YouTube videos are then clipped down into shorter clips, which go onto TikTok, Instagram, etc. So me talking for an hour about TPUs, GPUs, CPUs, CUDA, NVLink, etc. That will then become multiple videos which go all over the place. It also becomes, and for those of you who are not subscribed, definitely the live stream I do for an hour. I will talk to camera for an hour. We pull a transcript from that and we use artificial intelligence plus a human edit to turn it into a written newsletter. Talking for 1 hour like this. 1, I get to update myself on what's going on. 2, I get to talk to you guys because you are here live and that lets me see what your questions are, lets me answer them if I know the answer. I often don't. And 3, it gives me lots of video content for YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and it turns into a newsletter. It's a very effective use of time. Who manufactures TPUs? So it is, right now, it used to be Samsung. They have now moved manufacturer to Broadcom and, oh gosh, I'll look this up for you because they're designed by Google. Yes, I know that. Broadcom and C, one of the main manufacturers. I thought AMS. Okay, no, apparently not. Okay, so it's TSMC in Taiwan and Broadcom are doing the manufacturing, it looks like, but I don't know for certain. That is based off a Google AI overview, so we'll have to trust that. But I could look into that in a lot more detail. Not all GPUs have NVLink. No, they don't. What do experts believe the main revenue streams will be in 2 to 3 years for the AI companies themselves? I think it's going to be advertising. I was at a Google event last night and I was chatting to a Google person about this. I have to be very polite about it, but Google are doing really well in artificial intelligence right now. They had an amazing week in terms of the technology. However, 70% new comes from advertising. They drive revenue through advertising. About 70%. 60% is search ads. 10% or so is from YouTube. The remaining 30% of their company is from subscriptions, cloud services, AI, etc. But that's a very small amount. Also, their search advertising, their advertising revenue is a very high margin. It's 30-40%, which is very good. Google's in a really good position to dominate artificial intelligence moving forward. But is that a game you want to win? Their revenues last year were 350 billion. 350 million would be tiny. 350 billion, of which 60-70% is advertising revenue. With artificial intelligence, you are basically cannibalizing that business, Google anymore, because you're going to be serving them up information directly using generative AI. So we're going to push AI. That destroys our main business, which is search. Search is already going to likely die anyway because people are going to be generating answers. So we might as well be the ones to cannibalize and destroy it ourselves. And so at least we are making the revenues off the back of it. The question therefore is, how are they going to make money? Is it just charging a $20 a month subscriptions? No, probably not. Nobody's proven they can make that amount of cash, $350 billion a year using subscriptions. It's unlikely. Is it going to be API costs? No. Subscription revenues make like 10% of Google's revenue. It's going to be hard to make that amount of cash using just pure AI products. So very likely we'll see Google introduce advertising into their AI results. ChatGPT are going to be eyeing that up as well, because once you have people's attention, advertising is a very good way to make money. Already we saw things like OpenAI shopping. 2 days ago, they introduced shopping research, which allows you to put into a special research mode, which can help you find Black Friday deals, can help you find the cheapest, I don't know, lawnmower, whatever it is you need to buy. And people are asking like, I thought you were working on AGI. Why are you making shopping assistants? Because this is how they're going to make money. They're going to give us shopping assistants. They're going to give us ability to shop using AI. And then that gives them a platform to insert adverts directly in. So you'll be looking for a new lawnmower that you need to buy or a new gift or whatever. It's going to give you 5 options. 1 or 2 will be sponsored. So this, I believe, in 2026 in particular, is going to be how AI companies will start to monetize. There's a lot of money on the table, and it's a proven business model. Making money purely from AI subscriptions or purely from the API providing as a service is, as of yet, an unproven business model at that scale. Very likely advertising. Ads help Google make money. That is the cash cow. All social media companies, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they're advertising companies. They make money from their audiences. So when you use a product for free, you are the product. So when we use Facebook, for example, we become the product for the advertisers. Same with Instagram, same with TikTok. Our eyeballs are what's being sold and our attention. So we'll probably see this with artificial intelligence too. As long as we are spending time on these platforms, that time can be monetized, that attention can be monetized. I wanted to talk about Lovable. So Lovable is a vibe coding tool that you probably use. It's the one that I recommend people start with if you are looking for a basic kind of very user-friendly way to start vibe coding. I was there a couple of months ago. I visited them. Lovely team. Really exciting what they're doing. They've been embroiled in not paying VAT. They've been around for just over a year, and it turns out they were not adding VAT onto their invoices. They were not charging VAT, and now the Swedish government or the Swedish HMRC, I don't know what it is, the tax regulators in Sweden said, hey, are you going to pay us our VAT? Where's our money? And I'm not going to get into the tax complications of it, for one, because I don't know enough about this. They are headquartered in America, but they operate out of Sweden, but they have customers all over the world. So the VAT and the tax situation is complex. What I'm not qualified to talk about it. What I did want to talk about though is Anton. Anton is the CEO, founder of Lovable. I wanted to talk about his statement, which I think is wonderful. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't start blaming people. He doesn't start trying to excuse himself. He just states the fact. And he says, Lovable just got called out for not paying VAT in Europe. Many came to our defense saying the EU isn't built for hypergrowth startups. So this has become a catalyst with people saying, look how far behind the EU is. There's no way that we can build companies over here that can compete with America. Lots of people have been criticizing the EU because of this VAT case, because Lovable are one of the fastest, I think they're the fastest growing company, software company in human existence ever. And it's based in Europe. So that's exciting. That should be exciting for the Europeans and the EU. It should be like, oh, wow, we can build stuff that can change the world. But instead, VAT. So it's become this catalyst, this argument between people who support the EU and regulation of artificial intelligence and entrepreneurship and people who think it should be a bit more unfettered. Anton says, I appreciate it, but that is not my takeaway. We can build a generational company from Europe, and I want to prove it. I'm not asking Europe to stop being Europe. There are advantages to a high trust society and systems that don't bankrupt people when they get sick. So basically, not America. Lovable will, and has always planned to be compliant and pay any fees from being late. We pay our taxes and hope to pay billions more in taxes over the years. Building from Europe is a bet I'm proud of. He's basically saying we're going to pay the VAT, we'll pay any fees we owe. We have not let that get in the way of us growing as fast as possible. We can, and we've hit upon a great product and people want it. So we've been focusing on growth. We'll pay everything we need to, and we are happy to pay that because it goes into Europe and we support Europe. Some of the comments are like, this post is true leadership, no blame, just owning up and being the change. Mindset is on the next level. Thought this was wonderful. It's not saying we're not going to pay the VAT, it's saying we're going to pay it and we're happy to pay it. We believe in Europe and want to invest in that. No blame, no recrimination. Good job to Anton, and best of luck with everything you do. If you haven't used Lovable or vibe coded, I highly recommend Lovable as your starting point. There are other tools that you'll probably hear of. Cursor. I mainly use Cursor on a day-to-day basis. I do not recommend it as the place to start. I recommend Lovable as the place to start. And then later you can look at Cursor, you can look at Claude Code, etc., etc. But as your very first tool to get started in the world of vibe coding, in the world of building using artificial intelligence, Lovable is definitely the place to start. Mercury says, no change, Lovable will continue to operate. It's not being shut down, it's not in any particular trouble. They'll sort out their tax issues with the EU, but in terms of actually using it as a product, it won't have any particular effect. So I highly recommend using it. Ryan says, evening Kyle, what are your thoughts on new Gemini drop and Nano Banana? Fantastic. Gemini 3 is a really good model. Nano Banana Pro is fantastic. We've basically hit artificial general intelligence, AGI, when it comes to visual reasoning. Andrej Karpathy, who you should go and follow. He's one of the co-founders of OpenAI, super smart guy and a very good educator, and he does great YouTube videos. He posted up this a few days ago, which was somebody had taken photos of an exam paper, and Nano Banana Pro had filled in the exam paper with more or less correct answers, and had done both for chemistry and physics. What's impressive is Nano Banana is not just generating images. Nano Banana is reading this exam paper. It is then putting that information, the visual information that it is gleaned, into the reasoning model, Gemini 3, using that to answer the questions based on the large language model, not the image model, routing that back to the image model to generate a filled in paper. And the paper itself, it actually has workings out. Obviously these are simulated, but it's like what a student would write on the paper if they were working things out, and little doodles and sketches. It's got little smiley faces, so it has a bit of personality. I think this example is impressive because they have combined their image model with their reasoning model. Previously, you would have to specify exactly what you wanted to the image models. If you're making an infographic, you'd have to say where you want all the components and how you want it to flow. Nano Banana Pro does all of that for you behind the scenes, which is really impressive. They have also, let me pull it up, they've updated NotebookLM, which is criminally underused. Why can't I get into it? Oh, I'm trying to get into the app, that's why. Here we go. Still bad at UX. Yesterday I generated this. Let's see if I can put it up. Here we go. They now use Nano Banana to produce slides as well. So I said, hey, I want a slide deck about transformer architecture. It generated pages like this. This is not just generating images or what it thinks an image should look like. This is going through the whole thought process, planning out the content, deciding what should be in the image, and then generating the image, which is so impressive. It's created me a whole slide deck like this, step by step, and this is based off one prompt saying make a slide deck. I think visual intelligence has been solved. This is now a solved problem, and this is now able to see and generate images better than most humans. And I don't think that's been fully appreciated yet. I was at a Google event yesterday, and I was talking to some people from Google, and even they are very surprised about how good Nano Banana Pro is. Everyone was shocked. Nano Banana Pro is from last week, absolutely game changing. Gemini 3 is good. I still prefer the Claude models. Nano Banana Pro is phenomenal. Timothy says, I love NotebookLM. Mercury says, the podcasts are cool. For those who don't know NotebookLM, it is based on Gemini 3, it's based on Nano Banana Pro, but it's basically a tool where you can feed it sources, PDF files or books, You can give it websites, YouTube videos, because it's Google, it can read YouTube videos. It will pull all that information in, allow you to chat to that information, and it will all be sourced. But it also has something called Studio, which allows you to produce audio podcasts, a video, explain a video, mind maps, a report, an executive briefing, flashcards, a quiz, infographics, and slide decks. Really cool if you're trying to learn something. Not enough people know about it, but it's one of their killer applications. I also created videos, and this might be a bit small, but
we're all seeing it, right? The AI revolution is in full swing. It's writing emails, creating stunning images. These models are changing the world.
This is a video about transformer models. All of this is available in Notebook, which is fantastic. How is Nano Banana at branding? I have internal agent that I need to brand, aligned corporate brand. I don't know. That's a fantastic question. It's good at visual content. Test it with branding. It will be able to think its way through brand identity, which is cool. And unlike the previous Nano Banana, you can actually give it feedback. The previous one from a few months ago had an incredibly annoying habit where you would tell it to change something and it'd be like, yep, changed, all done, and it wouldn't have changed anything. So if you were doing a logo, for example, you'd say, oh, can you round off the bottom of that S? And it would think for a minute or two, and then it would be like, you're absolutely right. It looks much better with a rounded S. It would give it back to you identical. It's stopped doing that now. So now it actually takes feedback. I don't know if that was a bug, but it made it basically unusable. But Pro is better at that. Slide deck is currently down. Slide deck and infographic seem to be down right now. I'm getting currently unavailable, but we're working on bringing these back. I imagine they are getting slammed because people are waking up to how good Nano Banana is. Even when I was trying to generate these images earlier, talking about TPUs versus GPUs, I think their servers are getting slammed as people realize this Nano Banana Pro we can use it for work text in images, infographics, designs, slides. So it's not just photos of celebrities doing funny things. We've moved on and it's now a practical tool. I imagine everyone else's jaw was on the floor just like mine. Yeah. So as I say, even the people from Google, yeah, this is your product. Did you not realize? But they've started to see what people are using it for. And they're like, whoa, this is, wow. Do you have a course on AI and automation on YouTube? Not on YouTube, no. But if you go to my website, AI with Kyle, there's a bunch of free courses. That would be the best place to go. How are we for time? 37 minutes. I wanted to talk about the Genesis mission. This has come from the White House and the Department of Energy. A follow-up on the White House, gosh, what was it called? America's Action Plan, AI Action Plan, which came out a few months ago. Genesis mission is an executive order to give all scientific research to an artificial intelligence. So President Trump today issued an executive order to launch Genesis mission, a historic national effort led by the Department of Energy. The Genesis mission will transform American science and innovation through the power of AI, strengthening the nation's technological leadership and global competitive. The ambitious mission will harness the current AI and advanced computing revolution to double the productivity and impact of American science and engineering within a decade. It will deliver breakthroughs to secure American energy dominance. Okay, that's why it's Department of Energy. Accelerate scientific discovery and strengthen national security. So it is this is US Secretary of Energy is comparing it to the Manhattan Project and the Apollo mission. So Manhattan Project led to the nuclear bomb and arguably the end of World War II, and the Apollo mission led to landing the first men on the moon. He's saying the nation's brightest minds and industries have answered the call when their nation needed them. Today, the United States is calling on them once again. Under President Trump's leadership, the Genesis mission will unleash the full power of our national laboratories, supercomputers, and data resources to ensure America is the global leader in artificial intelligence and usher in a new golden era of American discovery. The big thing here is AI just got access to federal science data sets worth $200 billion a year of scientific research. The Genesis mission will build an integrated AI platform to harness federal scientific data, the world's largest collection of such data sets. And somebody else, same guy, Nick Dobos said, for comparison, the R&D budget of the top companies last year, Amazon, 80 billion, Alphabet, Google, 50 billion, Meta, 43 billion, Apple, 33 billion, and Microsoft, 32 billion. The entire federal data set is worth around $200 billion per year of research into an AI. I don't know who's building this AI. I don't know who's running this AI, but it's a very interesting move. This aligns with America's AI action plan, winning the race, and specifically Pillar 3, leading in international AI diplomacy and security, countering Chinese influence in international governments, countering China. China, under Xi Jinping years ago, said AI is a strategically important resource. We need to make sure that it has enough power, that it has electricity, that it has GPUs, that it has data centers, that it has talent. And this was many years ago because Xi Jinping very early on saw, oh, this is going to be important. Back in July, President Trump put out a similar statement, openly said, this is countering China, because this is a two-horse race right now between China and America. This seems to be a massive step, opening up federal government research, allowing it to be put into an artificial intelligence in order to presumably create more research, to create more findings, to create more progress off the back of it. Very interested to see what happens with this, because I don't think there's anything similar to this, basically giving it all of your scientific research and seeing what comes out the back end. Very interesting. We'll see how efficient it is. It might be an absolute mess. We might be laughing at this in a month or two, but I applaud the audacity and size of the movement. Okay. I created a great infographic for my Facebook post. It's massive. Your material has been helpful. Thanks, John. Did you make it in Nano Banana Pro? Because it is very good at infographics. What I tend to find, though, it puts more... Let me see if I can find Matt. Mr. Reflow did a good post on this. Matt Wolf. He did a great one. Infographics just became effortless. I'm still blown away by what Nano Banana Pro is capable of. I recreated all of these infographics I originally made with Imogen 8 months ago. Needless to say, we've come a long way. So he has the previous ones and then the new versions. These are the previous ones from 8 months ago. This is how a neural network works. This is him, entrepreneur, creator, AI tech nerd, how a diffusion model works. Compare that to these new versions from Nano Banana Pro. So this is how a neural network works. It's actually got all of the mathematics here. It's got the functions, activation, ReLU, and sigmoid. This is his new Ikigai. This is reinforcement learning. And this is how a diffusion model works. What I've found, though, is because Nano Banana Pro can do so much, it does too much at times. Some of these, like this one, are a mess. From a design point of view, it's impressive what Nano Banana Pro has managed to do and the fact that it has added all of this information, but it's also overwhelming. So in a weird way, we need to strip back Nano Banana's prolificness and say, oh, that's great, but can you chill down and make this readable? Right now, this is overly detailed. It's impressive that it's come to this in 8 months, but arguably less useful. We need to tell Nano Banana Pro to chill. Just because it can doesn't mean it should. The key is to simplify information with infographics, not to overcomplicate it. That is what Nano Banana Pro seems to have forgotten. I found it works better if you say, hey, I want you to make an infographic of how transformer architecture works. Keep it simple. Do not overload this with information, and you can get it to calm down. Yeah, otherwise, it's a lot. And one more interesting post. I'm going to put this in the newsletter. You can get the newsletter on aiwithkyle.com. Totally free, and I'll give you all of the resources so you can go and check these out yourself. But I thought this was just an interesting kind of thread, which is I asked a number of people what career skills make somebody better prepared for AI progress. So this came up in a conversation I had yesterday with somebody who works for the policy department at Google. And she was asking, what do you think we should be telling our 18-year-olds, or what do you think we should be telling our 12-year-olds? And it's a really important question. Jeremy Howard said, now is a great time to be a generalist. Having a specific domain knowledge in one niche area is no longer as useful because we can now use artificial intelligence to get that same level of knowledge. When I started my first online business, I had to do absolutely everything. So I either had to hire specialists in e-commerce, design and product, or learn how to do them myself, whereas now we have in our pocket a group of specialists we can call on. It's like having a mastermind. You can say, oh, my sales page is underperforming. Please review my sales page and make suggestions. I can then A/B test. Previously, you'd have to go to a specialist. That is no longer the case. Being a generalist who knows a little about a lot is useful because we know enough to ask the artificial intelligence in order to get the specialist knowledge. So I very much agree with this. Curiosity and the desire to explore. Over the past few years, most people with access to LLMs could have learned things about them that nobody else knew simply by talking to them. But the mindset required to do that is rare and will become increasingly valuable. Again, 100% agree. We can use these tools in two different ways. Students are a good example. Could you use, as a student, artificial intelligence to cheat, to do all of your homework? We saw Andrej Karpathy was showing exam papers that have been filled out in handwriting by artificial intelligence that allows anyone to skip homework. Or you can use the same tools to walk you through what you're learning, ask questions, help reinforce your knowledge, give you supplemental questions, etc., in order to deepen your grasp of a subject. Exactly the same tool, but you could use it for one or the other. And what you use it for is going to depend on you as a person. Do you want to grow, learn? Are you curious? Do you want to explore? Or do you just want the easy route? AI is leverage for both being lazy or efficient. Up to you. Next one here from Tame. Don't know Tame. Humans will work on things that AI systems struggle at, and so we effectively complement them. I agree less, because AI systems keep proving they can do what we can do. Anything we think is purely the domain of the human, we keep getting nasty surprises where a year later it's, oh no, AI can do that too. So increasingly our sphere of control, what is uniquely human, is getting shrunk. We need to work out what those areas are. For me, it's things like this, what I'm doing right now, talking live, answering questions, stumbling over sentences, not knowing everything. That's fine, because we're here as human beings. I think leaning to that kind of thing is going to be more valuable in the future. Is going to events, meeting some AI people. If you're in London, you should check it out. I'll do details in a post later. It's getting up on stage, doing public speaking, things an AI can't do yet. You need to work out what that is for you in your area. Skill up in public speaking, networking, interacting with humans. I'm very introverted. I don't like being on stage, but I've learned over the last few years. If you are an engineer writing code, you should spend more time on either leadership or having more interactions with users or the organization's needs as a whole. If you're writing pure plain code that AI can do, that's a bad idea. This echoes Adam Wolf from yesterday, after the release of Opus 4.5, said basically software engineering is done. Soon we won't bother to check generated code for the same reasons we don't check compiler outputs. I love programming. It's scary to think it might not be part of my job, but coding was always the easy part. The hard part is requirements, goals, feedback, figuring out what to build and whether it is working. That's exactly the same here. So you need to be focusing on not the code itself. AI can do that now. You need to be focusing on what is it we should be coding. Do people care? Are we building something valuable? If AI can automate part of your job, what can you do that's more important? It tends to be the harder stuff, like talking to customers, finding out if what you are building, if what you are creating is worthwhile, because a lot of the grunt work has been removed. We can't just throw ourselves into that and stick our heads in the sand and be happy that we're just doing some work. We need to think about the value of that work. The work itself is becoming valueless. It's everything around it, which is important. Dealing with people, human interaction, social skills, big organizations, bureaucracy, interpersonal relationships, all that stuff becomes more valuable and more important. He finishes up. So again, stuff that is human. Finally, try to figure out what skills AI is good at and try to figure out how you can complement them. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. So I thought this was a really interesting question. I might ask this widely in some posts, and I'd love to hear what people think, because this is huge. What should we be focusing on in terms of our skill development? Is it worth learning certain things, or should we not bother wasting our time and instead focus our efforts elsewhere? It's a really big question. Am I an AI avatar? No, I'm not. I wish. People ask me this on every live. I could be a lot more lazy if I could do this with an AI avatar, but no, I'm not. I feel you're way more zoomed in than usual. Oh, what are you on TikTok? Oh, I'm on a different camera on TikTok. That's why I'm using a DSLR. Cool. So that is about an hour. I'm going to finish up. Make sure that you are subscribed to both YouTube and the newsletter if you found this useful. On YouTube, we're pushing towards 10,000 followers. I think should be there. We only need 400 more. So any subscriptions is really helpful there. Thank you so much. Aiming to get there before the end of the year, and that looks like we're going to do it, bar any big disasters. Might get cancelled for something maybe. Actually, that would probably be good for subscribers, honestly. And also make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter, which is on my website. So if you go to aiwithkyle.com, and then you can find the newsletter from there. And it comes out every single day. And it's basically a daily update of what's being covered in the live, including all of the links and resources, so you can check them out yourself. Anything interesting, you can follow up and get information. It's not just another AI newsletter. It's not just the news. If I think something is BS, I will call them out. It's very much my take, which is not always right, obviously, but at least it's not just a dry recital of the news, because we don't need any more of that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you around 10, 11 a.m. UK time. Thank you.